Wow, that is so crazy. I've been on mute this entire time. So we are going to run that back. Thank God that I noticed. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Liku Amadi, founder and attorney of Anasa Law Firm, where I work with online service providers to help them establish a solid legal foundation for business. I am a licensed attorney, but anything that I say during this live is not considered legal advice. It is legal information only for educational purposes. If you need legal advice, you need to consult with an attorney to get advice specialized for you. And so I give that disclaimer at the beginning of every live, every podcast episode, every conference that I speak at, right? Because I want people to know that, yes, I'm an attorney, but the information that I'm giving here is limited. And so I generally talk about contracts, and disclaimers are a huge part of protecting yourself as a business owner, and also should be incorporated into contracts, right? Not just when you're speaking on a live like I am today. So today we are going to get further into what is a disclaimer, how should you use one, why you should use one, how it protects your business, etc. Right? So what is a disclaimer? A disclaimer is language that helps you limit your liability while doing business, right? Talking about the online business phase. So again, I just gave a disclaimer at the beginning of the live, letting you know that although I'm a licensed attorney, that whatever I say shouldn't be construed as legal advice. And I give that disclaimer whenever I speak and give legal education or teach on a topic or speak in front of a group of people, because I want to, number one, protect myself, right? Depending on what state you're in, if you are giving legal advice, that as an attorney, if you're giving legal advice, that might be construed as you giving a specific person legal advice or acting as their attorney, right? When you're really not. And that could create some slippery slopes. So to protect myself, I always say that at the beginning, not just that I'm not giving legal advice, that it's legal education, but if someone does need legal advice, I tell them what to do, right? You need to consult with an attorney to get specific advice for your situation, right? So that disclaimer helps me limit my liability so that someone doesn't come off of this live and say, hey, Liku told me to do X, Y, and Z. Liku's my attorney. I'm going to be working with her. Every time I get on live, she gives me advice, right? I don't want people to think that we have an attorney-client relationship, because again, that type of relationship comes with professional responsibilities and duties on my part, and I don't want to subject myself to that. So using that disclaimer is how I help protect myself, my business, but also protect people who are listening, right? I want their expectations, I want to manage their expectations in that they don't expect me to be giving them legal advice, and that they know that they need to go and talk to an attorney themselves if they do need that legal advice, right? So again, disclaimers are language that help limit our liability as business owners. It helps make it clear what you do and what you don't do, right? So not just for licensed professionals like myself, but when you are offering any type of products or services out there in the marketplace, you can use disclaimers to communicate exactly what you're doing and what you're not, because people are not always clear, let's say, on what your service offers or what your product offers. So you use disclaimers to help clarify that this is what I'm doing, this is not what I'm doing, right? So for example, if you are, a lot of people had a hard time during the pandemic, right? So if you came out with an ebook and the ebook said, how to get over depression in 5 days, and it was based on, someone's experience after they got laid off from their job, got depressed, and they figured out some, let's say, techniques or strategies to help them get over that depression, right? They put it in an ebook and they sell it to people. So in that ebook, you want to have disclaimers that say what you're doing and what you're not doing, right? So what you're doing is you are using your personal experience, right, to help other people, to support other people who may be in a similar stage as you. What you're not doing is providing license advice, right? You're not acting as a mental health professional, or you're not making any diagnosis, treatments, recommendations, etc., right? Because depression is a clinical term. It has a clinical definition. And so again, you just being a layperson, a non-licensed medical or mental health professional, you want to make sure you communicate again what you're doing and not doing, right? What you're doing, hey, this ebook and information is based on my own experience. This is what works for me. Not sure if it's going to work for you, but I'm happy to share my own experience and insight, right? What you're not doing is acting like a licensed professional, and you want to state that this is not licensed, any type of licensed advice, medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, etc., right? So you get a much better idea of the ebook and the product that you're dealing with, right? You manage your expectations as to what should I expect out of this ebook, right? After I read it, when I read it, what do I know about the person who created it, right? Those disclaimers really help frame things. And again, it protects the business owner. So you're not just putting things out there and acting like a therapist, and protects the client or whoever's consuming your products or services in managing their expectations by being clear and transparent about what they're spending their money on. Got it? I am a little slow to check comments, but I will certainly do my best. Still trying to learn how to use this system, but we will get it together. Where should you be using disclaimers? So again, on this live, whenever you're speaking, right, you should use disclaimers. So on a live, on a podcast, if you're at a conference, if you, and not just verbally, but wherever you're putting out information too. So that means that, let's say on your Instagram, on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, in a blog post, articles, newsletters, right? And it really depends on the information that is out there. Again, because I'm sharing legal information and education, and it could be misconstrued as legal advice, then I should probably use a disclaimer so people don't think so, right? If you're sending out an email newsletter and it says, 5 tips to get your home smelling better for the holidays, right? You might not be so worried about using a disclaimer there outside from maybe double check if you're allergic to any of these scents, right? Or so if you have some type of reaction or sensitivity, etc., right? So it really depends on the content that you're using. If you are, let's say, a business coach or a money mindset coach, and you're giving people tips on tips and strategies on how to manage their money or increase their revenue or scale their business, you might be getting into some licensed territory, right? And that is one area where we really want to use disclaimers, is when the information and expertise that we're giving may overlap or be similar to licensed territories, right? Because there's licensed financial advisors, licensed attorneys, like I said, licensed medical and mental health professionals. Anytime we are giving information that kind of nears those types of territories, we want to just communicate, hey, I'm not a licensed professional. If you do need licensed advice, please go to them, right? We want to make sure that we are limiting our liability and not holding ourselves out as licensed professionals. So those are just some examples there. But generally, when you are operating in your expertise, when you're teaching, when you're sharing information, whether that is verbally, on social media, through writing, etc., you want to use those disclaimers to help protect you. And that can be, again, verbally, in the caption, in any content that you post. I don't know about TikTok. I'm not really too familiar with that, but probably using a disclaimer there, when you're pointing and sharing your facts and strategies, etc. So disclaimers can be used almost anywhere. And I'll just go over a few more scenarios where disclaimers might pop up. So whenever you're making guarantees and promises to an audience or a clientele, potential clientele, right, you probably want to use disclaimers, because in the online business space, testimonials for example, are really helpful to support any guarantees that we make, right? So I guarantee that after, 3 months of working with me, you're going to double your revenue. You probably want to accompany that with a disclaimer that says, hey, this is based on whether you do all of the work. This is a two-way relationship. You can only double your revenue if you complete all the coursework and do XYZ, right? Outside of solely just relying on testimonials that support the guarantee that you're making to other people, saying, oh my goodness, in 2 months I doubled my revenue working with so and so in their program, right? You want to let people know that they also have to contribute, right? Every situation is different, but they have to contribute their participation in order to get those results, right? In order for you to be able to make that guarantee. Otherwise, you have people coming in who are just going to skate through the work, or maybe think they can skip through things, or check the box on things and not do them thoroughly, and think that they're going to double their revenue. And when they don't, what happens is you get into client disputes because they didn't get the results that you guaranteed or promised them at the outset, or what you communicated through your glowing testimonials, right? So using disclaimers, again, to manage expectations of the people that you are working with, and communicate like what is being done and what is not being done. So what is being done is you're providing this service that seems to be working great and getting great results for people, but you're not promising those results without that person's hard work or participation, cooperation, etc. Let me check. Oh, okay, I did it right. Would you use disclaimers on an internet? Hey, Julie. Hey, Kevin. Thank you for your question. Would you use disclaimers on an internet environment? Depending on the information that you're giving out, then definitely yes. Um, Again, I can't. I don't know what you have in your head, Kevin, but wherever you're giving information that can be relied on or misconstrued, you would want to use disclaimers to protect yourself. Even if you're not sure, like, throw the disclaimer out there. Again, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? Um, Another example, let's say you are a health coach, or some type of like fitness consultant, and you are advising people on what to eat, how to work out, right, to lose, let's say, like weight after birth, or weight because of depression, or right, addressing eating disorders or anything of that nature. You want to let people know that, number one, if you're operating in a licensed capacity, more importantly, if you're not operating in a licensed capacity, because again, you're entering territory where, health specialists and licensed professionals and experts handle, patients with these types of things. So you want to communicate to that person that, this is just based on general information, or this is based on my own journey. If you need medical advice, right, or medical expertise regarding like your health and fitness, then you need to talk to a licensed professional, right? So that's one example. Another example is your services, limiting your services specifically. So as an attorney, I see, um, people come to me, they ask me to fix things or ask me to clear things up when it comes to legal steps that they took with companies or third party service providers, right? One of them being LegalZoom, for example. And so when people come to me, for example, for a trademark, right? Someone files their trademark with a third party company, and they think it's all good, but then they get notices back, right, requiring them to respond. And they get really confused because, like, I thought we already finished this, when I filed the trademark application with the other company, right? And so what they didn't understand is there were additional steps, and those steps were not going to be done by that company, right? They were just going to do one part. And I think as online service providers, we need to communicate like what we are and aren't doing, right? It can be easy for people to misconstrue that if I say, hey, I'm filing your trademark application, they think that, I'm going to be with them from beginning to the end until trademark gets approved, right? And there are several steps after filing your trademark application that people can go through. But they're not necessarily clear on what you're doing, right? So if there are other parts to your services, or services that are not included, you need to clearly communicate that. So an example of a disclaimer on that end would be like, if I'm filing a trademark application, hey, I'm going to file a trademark application and I'll represent you up until this point. However, when it comes to any notices that you might receive afterwards or issues that may need to be handled, that's not going to be my responsibility. You're going to have to pay XYZ, right, to add that onto the package, for example, right? So I'm telling them what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, and how I can do it for them. So they're informed. So when that notice comes, they're like, okay, this is something that I still need to get handled. Let me go ahead and, hit up Liku and pay whatever I need to pay for her to help me handle it, right? Another example is, let's say you are a marketing professional and you're helping people with graphics and content design, right? And they come in for a consultation. They think you're going to make all the graphics for them, but you're only telling them the ideas, right, that you have for them and how their content can improve, what graphics they can use. So you want to make that clear, disclaimer, right, that we will not create these products for you. This is only a brainstorming or consultation session to assess your current graphics and what we can do to help, right? In order for us to create these graphics for you, you need to take these steps, or you need to sign an engagement letter with us, or you need to pay us XYZ, right? So just being clear about what you're doing and what you're not doing, again, helps manage those expectations. I'm looking to post some. So Kevin, you're saying and I'm going to point out again, disclaimer, that this is not legal advice because it sounds like you're asking for specialized information. But the question is, I'm looking to post some tutorial videos available from YouTube. So I figured I would provision a page with the disclaimer for those videos used from YouTube and that it's not the property of the institution. I'm not exactly sure what context you're making this comment. If you're looking for legal advice, definitely send me a DM and I can tell you how we can go about getting you legal advice. Because I can't answer or respond to the comment as I read it. But yeah, send me a DM and we'll see what we can do. I will say in general, YouTube is certainly a place where you need to use disclaimers, right? Where you're sharing content, teaching something, sharing your expertise, selling a product. So if you're if you're using disclaimers anywhere else and repurposing that content onto YouTube, then you should certainly be using disclaimers there as well, as that is the place where people are consuming your content, information, or learning about you and your services. So in summary, right, this is another way for you to protect yourself as a business owner. There are too many opportunities out there for liability and increased risk and us just doing things the wrong way, especially in the online business space where it's so easy to start a business. You just need a phone, you need some Wi-Fi, and you need something to sell. Sometimes you don't even need something to sell. You could just be out there sharing information, sharing your life, and you're making money, right? So we often, because it's so easy, we often forego, like, what legal things do I need in place? Of course, it's not a brick and mortar where you need all these permits and regulations and, building red tape, but there's still some requirements and protections that you need to put in place in order to conduct a business appropriately online, make the money, and keep your money, right? So certainly disclaimers is one of many ways that you can do that, but a very easy way, something that's very simple but also profound to help you protect your business, to make sure you're putting yourself out there as the expert or professional that you are, but not confusing people as to what you do and how you do it. And also to help the clients or people consuming your content and information so that their expectations are managed as to who you are, what you do, and what they can get from you. So with that being said, again, I'll say my disclaimer one more time. I'm a licensed attorney. However, anything in this live has not been legal advice. It has been legal information only for educational purposes. If you need legal advice from me, send me a DM, and we'll talk about what we can do to get you your legal advice. Otherwise, I will see y'all on the next live, and I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Alrighty, take care.